unnecessarily kick Gettler, who was also white, twice in the chest and once in the face while he was being cuffed. In the manifesto, Dornor writes, "The kick to the face left a visible injury on the left cheek below the eye. Unfortunately, after reporting it to supervisors and investigated, nothing was done. I had broken their supposed blue line." The blue line he spoke of is a legendary unspoken code of conduct among police that states you never rat out a fellow officer. The LAPD did launch an internal investigation into Dornor's complaint, but found, quote, the alleged kicks had not occurred. Dornor writes, quote, "The department stated that I had lied and made up the report." Dornor was charged with making false statements, and the LAPD Board of Rights found him guilty. But according to Dornor, this was a result of corruption and retaliation on the part of the LAPD. "Terminating me for telling the truth of a Caucasian officer kicking a mentally ill man is disgusting," Dornor writes. "With the discovery and evidence available, you will see the truth." The evidence Dornor points to is the testimony of Gettler himself. Court documents show he told the LAPD he was kicked by a female police officer. Gettler's father also testified that his son told him about the attack. NBC4 Los Angeles spoke exclusively with Gettler's father, who says he remembers that night in 2007 when his son came home and told him he was kicked.
Two in the chest, the third one missed and got him in the face.
"This is my last resort," Dornor writes. "The LAPD has suppressed the truth, and it has now led to deadly consequences." But did the LAPD really suppress the truth? Court documents show the testimony of both Gettler and his father was heard by the Board of Rights, who say, quote, "While the board acknowledged that the testimony of Gettler and his father indicated a kicking had occurred, Gettler is schizophrenic. The board did not find him to be a reliable witness and found his father's testimony was hearsay." The board also found that the officer he accused of abuse was considering giving Dornor a negative review, and that he falsely alleged the kicks in order to stop working with her. Dornor challenged his firing in the Court of Appeals, but lost. But this incident is not Dornor's only problem with the LAPD. He also accuses officers of rampant racism, saying they use racial slurs on the job. He writes, quote, "The department has not changed since the Rampart and Rodney King days. It's gotten worse." In his manifesto, he promises, quote, "Terminating officers because they expose a culture of lying, racism, and excessive use of force will immediately change. The blue line will forever be severed, and a cultural change will be implanted. You have awoken a sleeping giant." Well, the LAPD days ago had said they will reinvestigate the original allegations that Dornor had made, but with him dead, we may never know why or when he decided to finally vent his rage in this way. Joining me on the phone is James Usera. He met Dornor before he became a police officer, before his troubles began. They were classmates at Southern Utah University. James, what's your reaction to what's transpired over the past few hours?
Well, it's an indescribable sensation being live on the phone with a television program and hearing that your friend just either committed suicide or was burned up in a building. And so it's, I'm not being cavalier about it. It's indescribable. It's a sort of emotional roller coaster I've kind of been through the past few days and trying to come to terms with everything that's going on.
Yeah, obviously the person that you felt you knew is very different than the person that the American public has come to hear about over the last couple of days. I know you've done this a lot, but just describe the person you knew, the friend that you remember from your days in school together.
Sure, Chris was a guy who was approachable. Had a great sense of humor, fun to be around, intelligent, good conversationalist. The kind of guy that I think most people would want to hang out with and want to spend time with. So needless to say, learning about what's gone on over the past few days is pretty shocking. But again, he was really, in my experience, a pretty terrific individual for whom I had a great deal of respect.
I'm wondering if you read the so-called manifesto, and if you did, if you heard his voice, if you heard the voice of the person you knew in there somewhere.
I have not read it. I've seen bits and pieces that have been reported on in the media, but I haven't read the whole thing to be able to really comment on it one way or another.
Is this how you thought it would end? Assuming it's over, is this how you thought it would end?
Yeah, assuming it's over. I'll tell you, one of the things about Chris Dornor that I always respected was that he was a person of conviction, and when he made up his mind about something, you know, right, wrong, or otherwise, he made up his mind, and you weren't going to convince him otherwise. And so, you know, I do generally respect that trait, but I think it may be one of the things that brought about his demise in this case. You know, I don't think there was, once he got going on this, you know, frankly, this mission of vengeance that he was on, you know, just based on his personality type, you know, the way I knew him, there was not going to be any, you know, good end to it. So.
Well, James, I know it's been a long day for you and a long of many days for you. I appreciate you you being with us tonight. Thank you very much. We'll
yeah, my pleasure. Take care.
We'll be right back.
Well, we know that there is a body in the cabin just up the road from where we are, and that we believe that it is the body of Christepher Dornor. We've confirmed it through several federal law enforcement and through someone who apparently has leaked it from Los Angeles Police Department that Dornor is in that cabin, and now it's just a matter of collecting his body and 100% identifying it. San Bernardino Sheriff's Office have pushed back, as has LAPD, saying they haven't got in there, they're not sure it's him, but San Bernardino Sheriff's Office also saying that throughout the day, Mr. Dornor was spotted several times, was in that cabin, and never left that cabin. I also have from another law enforcement official, federal official, that his cell phone, Mr. Dornor's cell phone, went on throughout the day, and it's possible that they were able to talk to him at some point during the day and confirm that he was in there, and that more importantly, he did not have hostages in that cabin. At one point, he tried to get out of it, apparently by throwing a smoke grenade out of the cabin and trying to shoot his way out. He was forced back into the cabin, and sometime after that, whether he set the fire or it was law enforcement that started the fire when they were pumping gas into that cabin, it turned into a conflagration, and he is still in that cabin. And for all intents and purposes, this was a huge scene just a few hours ago, and now all of the police have left the roadblocks here. There is no more searching going on tonight. San Bernardino's Sheriff's Office seemingly confident that they have their man. Chris?
Of course, the story is still developing. Part of that, Miguel, is because there are lots of different aspects of law enforcement, local, city, state, federal involved here. You've been at the press conferences all day, and your part here coming from the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office. Let's play a little sound from Cindy Bachman at one of those press conferences. Here it is.
We had reason to believe that that was Christepher Dornor because the victims of the car theft said that the suspect that stole their car looked like him, and his actions after stealing the vehicle led us to believe even stronger that it was him. We have not confirmed that it is him.
You have to remember, this is a very confusing situation. There are lots of different law enforcement involved. This happened randomly. They haven't been tailing this suspect. What happened essentially in shorthand format is they got a report from people who had their pickup truck hijacked. The people who were driving the vehicle said they identified the man who did it as Christepher Dornor, the ex-cop, the subject of this manhunt. That, of course, triggered the suspicions of wildlife and game officers who were there. They wound up getting into a firefight with this suspect. They wound up chasing him. The vehicle was ditched. He ran into the woods, found a cabin. That's when San Bernardino sheriffs and a lot of other enforcement came in, combined assets, surrounded the cabin, and that's what led to the dramatic end that you see here, that cabin in flames. So there have been a lot of moving parts here and confusion. And Miguel, when you hear that, the reason Cindy Bachman had to come back on and give a press conference, I believe, let's get your reaction to it, is after she originally told us that they believed they had Dornor's body, the LAPD came out and said, we don't know that. We're keeping all security of people in place. We're not sure. Then came this. Your reaction to it all?
Yeah, I think she wants to make 110% sure that they do, in fact, have him, but it is very clear that officials across the spectrum here believe that, with the exception of LAPD, who says they're going to keep up their defenses tonight of those individuals who are named in Dornor's manifesto, on this mountain, there is no more search for Dornor going on this evening. One little difference in the way this seems to have played out this afternoon, the Los Angeles Times reporting that it was two cleaning ladies that walked into that cabin initially. Dornor surprised them in there. He then tied them up. He stole their purple Nissan car, took off in that. The Fish and Game individual saw him in that, had a shootout with him. He ditched that car, went into the woods, carjacked basically a white pickup truck. He was chased in that until he crashed it. Then he went into the second cabin, and that's where apparently he met his end, Chris.
That's right, Miguel. You took it back even another step. Literally, there were 2 carjackings today. There were hostages, we believe, for some time, but ultimately no hostages in the cabin. That's what officials believe at this point. There were 2 separate shootouts. One with the wildlife and game officers, then the San Bernardino sheriffs were in a subsequent shootout where one of the officers lost his life. The other one was injured. We're told he's going to be okay. So it's been a very complex day, and that's why communication, especially when you have so many different branches of law enforcement involved, it gets confusing. At the end of the day, all that matters is accuracy and safety, and certainly that's the goal of all involved here. For more perspective on this, let's also go out to the West Coast to Randy Kay. She's in Los Angeles. She's been following it all day for us. What's the latest for you there, Randy?
Well, Chris, just a short time ago, we had the LAPD spokesman, Captain Andy Smith, come out, and he was pretty heated about the fact that there had been all this talk of Christepher Dornor's body being not only pulled from that cabin, but also identified as Christepher Dornor. And he said that is absolutely not true. Again, another story trying to clear up whether or not there was a body or wasn't a body, and if there was an identification. But he said that's absolutely not true. I pulled him aside after that presser, and we spoke privately, and he said that he was on the phone with somebody who was standing right next to what was left of that cabin. He said he could still see the embers. There was still plenty of smoke and fire there. He said it was too unsafe for anybody to go inside. They absolutely would not have entered what was left of that cabin. And he also said that before they were to remove a body, Chris, they would spend hours in there photographing the scene, making sure they documented everything. They would never have removed a body so quickly. He said they're hoping to get in there still tonight if things do cool down, but they may have to wait until daylight tomorrow to actually get inside, Chris.
Randy, thank you so much for the reporting and perspective. Miguel, thank you to you as well. Long nights for both of you. Thank you for doing all the reporting today. Now, it's interesting, Miguel Marquez made a point earlier today.